Alright, so I just finished reading the next section of the book, and there's a lot of action happening in these chapters. I thought there was a lot of action before in the second section that we read, but this is where it all plays out. So first of all, the first thing I took away was that um, there was a lot of emotion, and obviously there's going to be a lot of emotion in an event like this, and I think it affected a lot of people psychologically. Some of those emotions came out, and Dave did a really good job of expressing that through his writing. Some of the ones I want to pick out is like Eric's parents. When the cops showed up to talk to them, they were uncooperative. The book says, and I think they weren't thinking clearly. I don't blame them if they found out their son just was involved in something like that. Another one was Robin and Zach. Robin, when the cops were questioning her, she didn't tell them about the guns, even though she didn't know if it would be right or not. Again, psychologically I don't think she was right, and same goes with Zach with the bombs. Both of them are questioning what to do. Lastly, when all the parents were together waiting for the buses to come in, Dave Cullen mentions the evangelical parents, how differently their take was on it. He said even though their kids were still missing and they didn't come back on the bus, they were the ones helping the other parents, like comforting them and talking to them, making sure they were okay. One thing I didn't ever think of before I read this book was the media and how their take was on it. I can't believe that they had helicopters there, and they were streaming it on live TV. It was crazy to me when I was reading that, but the thing that hit me the most was when Patrick was on camera, and it says that his little sister was watching at middle school on TV. That was crazy, and the fact that the cops told them to turn that off, because this might have been in the second section, but I thought it was interesting when the cops told them to turn it off, because if they're watching inside, then Eric and Dylan could see the SWAT movements outside and things like that. And lastly, I thought it was interesting. In the first section, I mentioned this in the first response. I said I thought it was really interesting how Dave Cullen made Eric and Dylan seem like normal high school kids, like they were involved in school sports activities, homecoming, prom, things like that. But then in these last chapters, chapter 21, it starts talking about all these little red flags that might have been going up, that maybe some of the cops missed, but they weren't as aware and looking out for this in 2000 as in 2018 now. So I get how they might have missed that. But some of those things were the theft. Eric and Dylan were caught for stealing. So that might have stood out on their record. Also, the death threats that we found out about from Eric, the 10 pages of murderous thought or threat or whatever it was. And so I think it was kind of weird to see two different takes on it. The first few chapters talking about how innocent and normal they were, and now all of a sudden we get, hold on, maybe they weren't all that innocent and normal, and we get this completely different look at it. So those were the main things that I took out of this last chapter.